So today in this video, I'm going to show you how to grow multiple varieties of apples on a single tree. This is accomplished through the process of grafting. Many people are often surprised to learn that apples do not come true from seed. What this means is that you can't grow a desired variety of apple from seeds of that apple. Just like your children are not an exact copy of you, the seeds of a Honeycrisp apple will not be a replica of the parent apple, but rather a combination of genes that most often results in small and sour apples. Sometimes, however, the different gene combinations will create an apple with highly desirable qualities. Thus, all trees of a favorite apple variety are descended from a single seed that came from a single apple. Most apple trees are also not self-pollinating. They need pollen from another variety in order for their flowers to produce fruit. So especially if you only have space for one apple tree, or want to keep things simple but have different apples with a wide range of flavors and ripening times to last you the whole season, relearning the lost art of grafting can provide you with this. As you'll see, with just a few simple tools and some practice, it can be surprisingly easy, and you'll be able to experience the wide variety of flavors that often comes from apples that are not available in the grocery store. These are 3 semi-dwarf apple trees onto which I have grafted 40 different varieties of apples. This is called top working, where you start with an existing variety of apple tree and then graft different apple varieties onto it. I am fortunate enough now to have many apples that range from sweet to tart, with an astounding variety of flavors, including some which have notes of cherry, citrus, and others. So these are the basic tools that you'll need, and I'll explain what each one is for as I go along. A good pair of bypass pruning shears, some black electrical tape, scissors, a knife for grafting, and also some grafting wax to put on the ends of your grafts so that they don't dry out. Grafting is done in the springtime just as the trees are beginning to come out of dormancy and the buds are beginning to swell. Here in Western New York, this tends to be late March to early April, depending on what the weather's like. What you're basically looking to do is to splice a twig from the variety of apple that you want to grow onto a branch of an existing apple tree. This twig is called scionwood. You can collect these and yourself from favorite apple trees in late winter and then store them in the refrigerator in bags until spring. Don't freeze them and don't let them dry out, but don't allow them to soak in water either. You can also order them from nurseries online. Fedco Trees and Big Horse Creek Farm are among my favorites and have a wide variety to choose from. Good scionwood will be from last year's growth and should have several buds on it. You'll see that this twig is a little bit redder than the gray area below. So it's this kind of reddish twig with numerous of these small buds on it that are leaf buds. That makes for good scionwood. So there are many different types of grafts you can make. I'm going to show you one that maybe isn't always the cleanest, but is undoubtedly the easiest, and it's always worked well for me. And it's called a modified cleft graft. So what you do is you take the scionwood, which is this piece here, and a sharp knife, and you basically just want to whittle down the edge of this to a sharp point, kind of like so. You see as you do this, the green there, that means that your scionwood is still alive. And the way you want to do this is you also want this kind of outside edge to be a little bit thicker than the inside edge. Although this probably does have to come down a little bit more. The other side of the scionwood piece here, which you want to cut off kind of pretty much right above a bud, so that there's maybe a little bit of space left, but not too much. And what you want to do with that is then you want to dip this end into your grafting wax, or even candle wax or paraffin, because that will keep the end part of the scionwood from drying out and dying. Then after you've located a branch that you wish to graft the scionwood onto, you use your knife to cut a slice down the middle of the branch. Ideally, both the branch and the scionwood should be of pretty similar size. And since this isn't quite time for me to be doing grafting this year yet, I'm just going to use these 2 branches as an example to show you how it's done. So let's say that this is our piece of scion wood here, and this is the branch that I want to graft it into. And you'll notice that this branch is just a little bit bigger than the scion wood piece. What you'll do is you take your knife and carefully cut a slice down, right down the middle, so that you can see this opens up here, like that. Then what you want to do is basically just push the scion wood into the cut, making sure that these outer edges touch. I can already see that I haven't made this one tapered enough, so I'm going to try to just do that now and make that a little bit better. Because what you really want to do is make it so that the outer edge that's right underneath the bark, the cambium layer, that those are touching here. Sometimes this cambium layer can be only a few cells thick even. But you want to make sure that they're touching in order for the scion wood to fuse to the branch and they can then begin to grow. You also want to make sure that you don't put the scion wood in upside down. The buds should be facing outward, as they would be on any other branch, otherwise it won't grow as well. And so what you do is you just kind of slide the scion wood piece into the branch, like that. And you can see that this is now a little bit better. It's a little bit tighter on the outside part. So once I have my graft together, what I like to do is use black electrical tape to wrap the graft. So I've already started this a little bit. You really want to make sure you pull it tight so that it stretches and really pulls the ends of that wood together here, like so, and then just kind of seal it up along the top. It's a little bit easier because I'm not doing this to a tree, but this way you can kind of see what it looks like. Lastly, you just want to make sure you label your grafts so that if they're successful, you'll know what variety of apples you can expect to have. I've actually found that etching numbers onto little stainless steel tags like these and then just kind of wrapping them carefully with twist tie on the branches works pretty well. Other labels might fade with the sun or fall off over time, so you want something that's going to last. And that's really it. Don't be too disappointed if it doesn't all work out for you for the first time, as you'll learn, and sometimes it usually takes a little bit of practice. It also takes some time for the graft to heal and then for the scion wood to leaf out, sometimes as much as 2 to 3 months later. Basically, as long as the scion wood has not dried out and shriveled, the graft may still be growing. The other thing I'll say is you can see with these are actually some grafts that have been successful and branches have grown off of them. When you first have a successful graft, in the first year after it, you might see your grafts start to have some blossoms, and you may kind of get excited and think, okay, I want that apple to grow in there. But in the first year, I would actually recommend taking the blossoms off, because if an apple forms on it, it'll be pretty heavy, and it might be enough that it would just break the graft. Usually after a couple of years, the branches will have grown enough, though, to be strong, and then you can really enjoy apples for them for years and years after. Here's one example of a finished graft from a couple years ago. You can see it's still got the wax on the end that kept the graft from drying out. And then this kind of lump here, this is where, there it is. That's the graft union that formed. And eventually that will just kind of grow out and won't be as evident anymore. Here's another example of what a graft might look like a few years afterwards. This right here was the scion wood. You can see this piece is the branch that I grafted it onto. All healed up, and I've been getting lots of apples from those ever since. So that's kind of basically it and how to do it. Good luck, and really if once you get this kind of figured out, you can really enjoy many different apples from a single tree, or in my case a few trees, for years to come.